Hey guys, how are ya? Dan the Vlogging Man here, and I'm back with another video. Yes, I know it's kind of crazy to think that I'm doing one in the same week again, but I thought I'd do this one video because just for the past few days I watched it, and what I'm going to be doing today is a video response to the Ninja Chachi's video on his review of a knockoff Minnesota Wild new white road jersey he has. So I thought, why not do it myself? Because as you saw in my previous vlog, I now have one of those. So without further ado, let's do this. Alright, so as you can see right here, this is my new Minnesota Wild new road white jersey, or sweater as it's actually called. So as many of you know, this is a new color scheme for their road sweater that they introduced over this past summer before the 2013-2014 season, and in my opinion, I think it looks pretty badass. As you can pretty much tell, I said this in my vlog I recently uploaded to this channel too. So yeah, and also not only am I doing my own review of this particular sweater, I'm also going to be comparing it to this replica Minnesota Wild sweater I have here. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see, this is indeed a very nice looking sweater, and from far away you probably really can't tell that this is a knockoff sweater. It looks pretty much identical to an authentic or replica one that would be sold in any sort of sports store or things like that. So alright, so there's the back of it. As you could probably see from my last vlog, I got a Mikel Granlund one, so that's how their new name and number plates look. Reebok up top there. Then moving back to the front of the sweater, as you can see, for the primary, for the logo on the chest, it still is that primary bear head logo with all the trees and all that stuff. So I really appreciate that they kept this primary logo that I think is, in my opinion, is the best in all the NHL. So nothing has changed there. And as you can see on the bottom here, on these new away white sweaters, they've done away with this multicoloring here and instead have various stripes of green and white. And then they did the same thing here on the sleeves. So there you have it. Then also, as you can see, if I can get this unfolded. Ah, there we go. So, as you can see, number 64 on each sleeve, in addition to the Minnesota Wild's primary circular logo on each shoulder patch. And then finally, on this part of the sweater, we have Minnesota up here along with the two little stars that you'd see in their primary circular logo, as well as a Reebok and CCM tag. And also something that is in this particular jersey or sweater and not my other replica Wild sweater is the fight strap, which I'll get more into later. And actually I'll get into that pretty soon, because now what I'm going to do for this part of the video is compare this here new knockoff authentic Minnesota Wild sweater to this real replica Minnesota Wild sweater. So first I'm going to show you all the details on this and then compare them to this. Alright, so as you can see here, one thing that you should probably notice right away when comparing a replica or authentic NHL jersey of any kind is the differing materials. So as you can see here, there's this there's this kind of mesh material here, and then it gets softer as you go down. Now on this one has the same harder material, or the same harder mesh material going all the way down the sweater. Well, with the exception of the shoulder part up here, and then some of the back, which I'll get into a little more in a little while. And as you can see, also with the front logo patch here on the chest, I'm not sure how well I'll be able to demonstrate here since this is a replica jersey and not an authentic. But on an authentic jersey, you would be able to see some stitching right here on this white outline. But I think for replica, they just do stitching for the inside part of the Wild logo, and then just heat press the rest on. And then as you can see, it's flexing a little bit, but not too much. And then for the most part, it's flat. And then compare that to over here with this one. It's a little bit more flexible. And then also, if you look very closely at it, you can get this focus. There we go. You can see that there's just a ton of stitching going along the outline of the logo. So, if I were comparing this to an actual authentic Wild jersey, you should know right away that there should not be this much stitching. But again, that's only something you'll notice if you look very closely at this particular sweater. But hey, I guess that's what you get for going cheap. And then also some other little imperfection that you may be able to notice at the vantage point I'm looking at it right now is the stitching, or the preciseness of stitching done for this part of the Wild logo. So as you can see, first off, let's go over here. On an actual replica or authentic jersey, this part of the logo isn't as jagged, and it's more curvier, if I'm saying that right. Well, on this one, it's a little bit more jagged and it's uneven at some parts. But again, unless you're looking at this up close, you really, or to the unsuspecting eye, you really wouldn't notice this. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Let's see, what else do I want to compare? Oh, I guess I could compare two bigger differences here. So, as you can see here, for the shoulder patches here on this replica Wild sweater, I think they do this differently for the replicas and authentics, but for the replica, they just have them heat pressed on, and then an authentic they actually have it stitched on. But then, as you can see over here, it tries to emulate the look of an authentic sweater by having this Wild logo patch stitched on. So I think that looks pretty nice. And then one little imperfection that I noticed with this part of this Wild logo is that somehow some red stitching got into that letter W. I don't know how. It was probably just some sort of mistake they made during the stitching process, but again, to unsuspecting eye, unless you look very close, not a big deal. Really won't be able to notice it. And also, I actually forgot to mention something, and some other little imperfection about this Wild logo here. If you look very closely, you can see that right there, some little bit of red stitching somehow got into this first tree. Again, probably just some little error made during the stitching process, and it's not very noticeable unless you look really close. Just like all the other little things I'll mention about the jersey pretty soon. Alright, so then moving back over here, for the numbers that are stitched on each sleeve, as you can see, the stitching is not as close together, but not too close together. And as you can see, it's a little bit shiny. And I think that's pretty much how it is on an actual authentic NHL jersey too. Hold on, I'm trying to unfold this. No, that'll do. So as you can see, not a ton of stitching, but not too much, as you'll see on the other one pretty soon. Alright, so now moving over to this knockoff authentic wild sweater. As you can see, this is where things get entirely different. So, as you can see, it looks like it has about the same amount of stitching as this replica one, but some big difference I noticed already is that with the stitching here, it's all coming down in the same direction, as opposed to this one, where it's coming down in different directions and creating that shiny look, which we don't get here. So that's one of the only those are some of the only big differences I can spot between these sleeve numbers, but other than that, they look pretty good. Alright, so another thing that's worth mentioning is the tag area up here. Now, this will be a little different since, as I said before, this is a replica sweater and not an actual authentic one. But as you can see up here, with the Reebok tag, it looks, I think, different as compared to that one. It's gray on the top, bottom, and middle with the NHL logo right there, Reebok, and this little black patch. And then on an actual jersey, or an actual authentic jersey, this tag here would be a CCM tag, and it's a made in Canada, as well as the size and numbers. So since this is a replica sweater, this is actually made in Indonesia, as you can see, and is size medium, which I think is equivalent to size 48 for an authentic jersey. So there's that. Then as you can see here, with this tag, it's stitched down for the most part, and you can still get under it like this, but now you're going to see something over here on this knockoff authentic sweater. So as you can see, they tried to emulate that with this particular tag, but they didn't really do a good job. Well, actually, they did do a pretty good job with the tag, and it has all the same look. Authentic licensed jersey, NHL, Reebok. But as you can see, they didn't really do a good job stitching this tag on. Because as you can see, this tag is clearly not supposed to be up like that. So you can easily get under it and stuff, but it's not fully pressed down. But that's besides the point. And again, that's just another thing that you get with these cheap knockoff jerseys. So yeah. Alright, so last but not least, let's move on to the backs of these. Well, I'm just getting this perfectly folded out. Do it for this one too. Actually, I'm just going to cut first part, so just be right now. I'm back here with both the backs of both of these particular sweaters. So now I'm going to show you some things that you would see on a replica or authentic, or actual authentic NHL sweater. So here we go. Alright, so with this top Reebok logo here, as you can see, is just directly embroidered in. Usually on an actual authentic NHL jersey, this would be a patch and it'd be a little more shinier, but as you can see, it's just the same jersey material, and this is just stitched right in. And then on the other hand, on this particular sweater is also just stitched in, but then, so it's basically like the same look as that replica, my actual replica jersey, but yeah, and this is also to go along with the same style of an actual version of this particular sweater. So now I actually just have the word Reebok as opposed to just that logo. Alright, so now moving on to the nameplate and number plates. This is where things get a little bit interesting. So, as you can see with its actual nameplate here for Backstrom, it has an entirely different material from the rest of this jersey. As you can see, it's harder, and it doesn't have, like, it really doesn't have the same holes like the rest of this jersey does, and it's shiny just like the numbers on the sleeves are. So as you can see, if I'm trying to do this right, as you can see, if I move it back and forth, you can see the light shining off of it. And the same thing goes with these numbers. Now differences aside with style, because this is their old look, and that's their new look. As you can see, if you look closely at this, you can see that the stitching is nice and even, and it's going in all different directions here to create that nice even look. And as you can see, of course, they're also flat, and there's no real creases in the numbers, except for just that little one right there, but that's not too bad. So as you can see, the stitching job looks very nice. Now moving on to this one, they basically, for the most part, they did a good stitching job, but it just looks like a ton of stitching here in the numbers. And unlike my replica wild jersey, they aren't shiny, and that's like kind of the same thing also with, as I said before, with these numbers here on the sleeves. And surprisingly, this is something they actually did a pretty good job with here on this particular sweater of emulating. So as you can see, this actually is a different material than the rest of this, the back of this jersey with the nameplate here for Grandland. So yeah, and some only little minor imperfections that I noticed with it is that up here they kinda didn't do the best job with the stitching. As you can see, this part up here is loose, but then the rest of it, for the most part, is pretty much fine. So they actually did a good job with the nameplate and number on this particular jersey or sweater. So, and actually, one thing that's kind of hard to notice, and the unsuspecting eye really wouldn't see, is that the nameplate and numbers on this jersey aren't centered. But the thing that's right here, the fight strap is. Because as you can see, I'm trying to, yeah, there we go. As you can see, this little box here that they stitched into it for the fight strap, it's supposed to be right in between the 6 and 4, so it's supposed to really be, oh wait, actually, the fight strap's in the right place, but these numbers and nameplate aren't. So that's good, but they clearly didn't center this properly. So really, if you look back like that, you really can't notice it. So I'm perfectly fine with that. And then also, I think that this is the last thing I want to cover on this particular sweater. The fight strap here. Yeah, as you can see, they really did not do a good job with sewing this in, because they have this loose end here and a bunch of thread coming out, and overall it just didn't do the best job with it. And hold on, I'm just trying to get this open. Hold on, let me put the camera down. There we go. So As you can see, it's just a miniature fight strap, nothing special. And this is something that actually I don't get on this actual replica jersey because this is a replica and not an authentic. So that's something that this one has, but that one doesn't. Hold on, I just want to snap this back on. There we go. Alright, so now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on for you guys and show you what it looks like. I really don't know how I'm going to do this easily because I'm recording with my iPad and just using the front camera, but as you can see, here's what the sweater looks like on me. Yes, I realize it's going to be reversed because that's the nature of these front-facing cameras. So as you can see, there's the front logo. And also, forgot to mention this before, it did come with these laces, and they're green just like an actual replica or authentic wild sweater would be, well, at least in this style, so I think that's pretty awesome. And as you can see, Minnesota Wild patch right there, as well as right there. Then number 64. Sorry if I'm not getting the best angle of that on each sleeve. Not going to show the other one because I showed it to you guys before, so I think you pretty much get the point. And I'm not going to show you back because I showed you guys that before. So that's how this particular sweater looks on me. Alright, so depending on how well that particular shot of that video came out, as you can see, this particular sweater looks pretty awesome on me. So yeah, and I actually just recently wore this a few days ago to a wild game I went out to, and people really couldn't even tell that this was actually a knockoff sweater, so I find that pretty awesome. Oh, and actually, two more quick things I want to compare on these two sweaters before I go. The first is here with this NHL logo. As you know, on these replica and authentic jerseys, that it's a patch here, and it has the stitching within it, and then you're not supposed to be able to see it through that, which is how it's supposed to be. And surprisingly, this is also how I did it on here, and they did a pretty good job with that. So that's something you typically don't see on a lot of these knockoff jerseys. So that's a pleasant surprise. But then one thing I want to show you guys that obviously you're not going to see on an actual wild or any sort of other jersey. If you look in this knockoff one, you can see the stitching right inside of the jersey. So it's not supposed to be like that, so I'm trying my best to do this, but as you can see, it doesn't look the best because you can see the stitching, and on a lot of these, like right up there, there's like some fabric that I'm peeling up and stuff, and it doesn't look all that good. But again, that's on the inside of the jersey, so you probably won't care about that too much as compared to on an actual jersey. You just see the outlines of it because, as I said before, on replica and actual authentic jerseys, they do the stitching, but then they just heat press all this stuff on. So yeah, that's like probably one of the biggest differences you'll notice between a knockoff and actual jersey or sweater. Hold on, I'm just gonna fix this. Alright, so one more little bit of thing, or that element before that is also noticeable, as I said. With stitching, you can see it right there too. It doesn't look nearly as bad as that chest patch with being able to see stitching, but yeah. Alright, so that is about it for my review of my Minnesota Wild new Road White knockoff sweater and my comparison of it to this authentic Wild sweater in their older way style. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a like, as always. I greatly appreciate that. Also be sure to comment below if you have any sort of knockoff NHL jersey or whatever, and your experiences you have with it in terms of quality and all that stuff. And also, last but not least, well, this actually isn't the last thing, but again, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. This channel is like over, I think, a year and a half old now, and I'm still hoping for a little bit more in terms of subscribers, so I would greatly appreciate that. And in case you're wondering where you can get a particular jersey like this, there's this one site called Aliexpress.com. That's A-L-Y and the word express.com, and that's where the other person that I'm doing this in a video response to, God, the name slipped me already, but I said in the beginning of the video, that's where they got this particular jersey, and they also were pretty impressed with the quality and stuff, as am I. So if you're worried about getting any sort of knockoff jersey, well, don't be, because from this site, the suppliers they get them from actually do a pretty damn good job. So for the most part, again, unless you look really closely at certain parts of these jerseys, they actually look pretty good and can be worn out to any sort of sporting event, or in this case, of course, a Wild hockey game. So there's that. Alright, so now that's about it for this video. So all to say now is peace and go Wild.